Welcome to the Multifamily Management Excellence Podcast. Are you interested in learning from multifamily experts and how they achieved success? Then you have come to the right place. Your host, Mike Ballard, interviews industry experts to share their stories and advice to achieving success in the multifamily industry. Our goal is to provide you with resources and tools to increase profitability and achieve success on your own multifamily journey.
Welcome, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to our next edition of the Multifamily Management Excellence Podcast. We're excited with the guest that we have today. He's quite enthusiastic. He's had a lot of great success. He's very entrepreneurial. I'd like to introduce Michael Davalos with Equity Real Estate Management. He's based in Miami, has properties in multiple states. He'll tell us more about those. So Michael, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Mike.
No problem. How did you get in the business? Tell us about that.
So, like most people, it wasn't part of my guidance counselor's advice of things to do after high school. I kind of just fell into it. I feel like nobody really gets that kind of advice of like, you know what, you'd be an excellent property manager. You should consider that a career, which is ironic that they don't teach that in college, because it is a very worthwhile career, in my opinion. It's something that's in very high demand. But anyways, I digress. I got into it after high school. I originally got my mortgage broker's license and my real estate license. And I was on the broker side for the first half of my career. I got a job after I got the mortgage broker's license working for a commercial lender in Hollywood, Florida, where we used to specialize in hard money commercial loans. And that's really where I learned how to view the world of real estate from a lender's perspective first. I think that helped to guide a lot of my decisions and things that I did, just looking at the risk side of real estate before doing anything else. Around 2014-ish or so, got a little bit heavier into the investing side of the business, started working with different syndicators and helping them find projects or dispose of projects, and just kind of got more and more involved on the investing side. And then finally in 2022, when I decided to go on my own and launch my own investment company, one of the very first things that was very important to me was to be able to have a management company as well to manage the properties that I would buy, so that I wouldn't be kind of dependent on a third-party company to manage an asset that I owned or anything that I bought.
So how many years did you work for somebody else until you owned your own company?
Well, so I owned my own company from 2004 until 2009, which was a correspondent lending company. I shut that down in 2009 because my warehouse lenders kind of went out of business during the recession.
Hey, so how about before that? After college, did you graduate in 2009? You're not that young, are you?
I didn't. No, I graduated in 2004.
So basically 4 years, 4 or 5 years, you worked for somebody else, and then in 2009
Well, 2005, I worked for a company from 2001 until 2005. And then I went on my own in 2005 to 2009. And then I was brokering for a company called Fortune International Realty here in Miami. And I worked for them from about 2011 until about 2016-ish as a broker. So I was able to do other jobs as well as working there. And it was around that time that I started working more with investors directly. And then I worked for a company from 2016 until 2021. And then that company was a syndicator. And then from that company, I ended up launching Davalos Capital, which was launched in 2022.
and that's where you started buying properties.
And that's where I started buying properties with my own pool of investors and my own funds.
Got it. And how many properties did you buy your first year in 2021?
So 2021, we didn't buy anything. We kind of started the company at the back end of the year. So the first 3 months was a lot of establishing protocols. Thankfully, that's when I met you, was in 2021. So I was able to kind of, one of the big headaches was the accounting side of the business. And the, just do we hire a CFO or do we outsource it was something I wrestled with for a while. I was very happy when I met you at the conference and got to know you a little bit better and met some of your referral sources, which actually ended up being close friends of mine, like Rob Beardsley and Ken Petrowski of Lone Star Capital. John Mejia of Providence Investments. So these were guys that you actually gave me as referrals, unbeknownst to you that I had a relationship with them, and I considered them friends. So it was pretty easy to just get on the phone with them and get their opinion about, get their opinion on you from there. And yeah, thankfully, once we got that settled around January, unfortunately, 2022 was the year that interest rates started increasing, and I kind of knew I felt that was coming just based on the way that the Fed had been talking about different economic data points, the amount of money that was printed. There was just a lot of writing on the wall for me that interest rates were about to start getting hiked. And as soon as they did that first hike in March, I knew there was going to be a lot more coming very quickly. I didn't expect it to be as quick as it happened, but I knew it was going to happen nonetheless. So it became very difficult to underwrite deals when the sand is shifting underneath your feet, so to speak. So kind of took it upon myself at that point to focus on the management side of the business, because I figured there was going to be a lot of other syndicators or groups out there that were going to need help in management. As far as whatever passed as good management before 2022, once things started getting tighter, wanted to just really put my focus into operations and how can I streamline operations and boost NOI when you can't jack up revenue anymore, and all you can do is control your expenses and have extremely well-trained staff. Kind of just focused on that for 2022. So that's a long way of saying I only bought one property in 2022. And then I bought one more property in 2023. I mean, the good news is, because we've been very disciplined and we've stuck to our fundamentals as investors and stuck to our fundamentals as managers, both of the deals that we did purchase are performing ahead of schedule. They're doing exceedingly well. So our investors are very happy with the two deals that we did purchase. One of them was a $50 million purchase of 278 units in Rapid City, South Dakota. The other purchase was a hotel, which is outside of my wheelhouse, but it was such a good purchase that we couldn't pass it up. And it was in Rapid City, South Dakota as well, which is a market that I'm very, very familiar with. So decided to just pull the trigger and buy that. And thankfully, we learned a lot about the hotel business. We've streamlined a lot of our operations there as well. But both properties are performing exceedingly well. Like, as I mentioned, we're ahead of our pro forma NOI by over 8.5% on both deals, and
awesome. Way to go.
Just happy to be doing well. And then on the management side, as third-party managers, we've grown pretty quickly, as I'm sure you guys have seen. We started with 2 properties, then brought on a third, then got a fourth. And that was in 2022 and 2023. And then now in 2024, we've brought on 4 more properties. So currently today, we're sitting at a total of 8 properties, with a 9th property coming on board in 60 days. And we will be at 1,775 units with the other property we're bringing on. We will be at 2,025. So with this 9th property, we'll get over
the milestone, going over 2,000. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So
you talked a little. Sorry.
No, you talked a little bit about some challenges. What was the hardest part of building your business so far? The business is 3 years old, a little less than 3 years old. Yeah, so what's been the hardest part? You've already passed 2,000 units.
So we're, as of this July will be our 2nd year. Sorry, because the management company was started in kind of the summertime of 2022, was officially launched. So we'll be hitting our 2nd year by this summer. The hardest part about growing is twofold. I would say the hardest part of all is finding the right deals to take over management. We've had to say no to a lot of business, either because we felt there wasn't enough. Some of these properties don't have office space to operate from. They'll take an apartment, like a studio or 1 bedroom, and convert it into an office. And if you have 100 units or less, that can sometimes work. But when you get into 200 plus apartment buildings with just, not enough office space, you really are setting yourself up for failure, in the sense that you don't have space to interview people. You don't have storage space for your materials. You need to store extra appliances, extra parts that you're going to need, and all of that. You need to have it on hand, and you need to have it organized. And you also don't have a place to conduct interviews. If someone's applying for an apartment while someone else is exiting an apartment, you want to have those people in separate rooms, able to kind of take their privacy and preserve the privacy. So we've had to say no to a lot of these properties that were kind of built before the 60s and 70s and don't have that infrastructure. Or the other big thing that we've seen is a lot of properties with rising debt and no real business plan for how to handle the debt that they have. So we don't want to take over a property that 6 months later is going to end up underwater and not able to pay its debt service. So that's something that, you know, as an investor, we're looking toward the future as far as like, okay, right now things are okay, but if rates continue to increase, and right now rates are pretty much, we think they're pretty high already. We don't know if they'll get much higher from here. There's certainly the potential for that still, but I'm talking about more a year ago when rates were still at 5 and 5.5, and there was a potential for them to go in 6 and 7, which they did. We could see that a lot of those deals that we were passing on had that problem where they had floating rate debt, and we didn't want to get ourselves into a property that in 6 or 8 months we were going to be losing it. So that's been the biggest challenge is, you know, we're in a very tough economic time right now with inflation. The second hardest part about our business is the people component. There is no work from home. There is no Zoom meeting to be able to do your job as a property manager or as a maintenance supervisor.
You need to be on site.
You have to be on site and you have to be happy to be on site. I think the biggest thing that we forget is that the way you feel about your job is going to come through in what you do, right? And I'm a firm believer in the old saying, you know, how you do anything is how you do everything. And a lot of times what my partner really, who's you know, just really an excellent leader and has been in property management for a long time, we really strive to show that we care as owners of the company. We try to show them that we're passionate about what we do and that we, you know, we're investing in their education and investing in their growth so that we can really attract and then retain top talent in the industry, which is what it's about. I mean, at the end of the day, the one that's going to execute your business plan, I can yell till I'm blue in the face, or I can try to lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, right? So it's really the people we hire that are on the ground that we train that are going to make or break your business plan on that property. So, you know, one of the other sayings that I say all the time is we're very slow to hire, but very quick to fire people. We want to make sure people buy into our culture. We have them read books, certain books that we put out to try to, whether it's Patrick Lencioni's books about the ideal team player. We do personality profiles for all of our staff, so everybody gets a DISC assessment just so that people understand how to communicate with each other better. And then after everyone's taken their personality test, we share with them the results so that they can understand their coworkers better. This is kind of another long-winded answer, but, you know, property management, historically, everybody's on their private islands. We like to, we talk about every property being an island because you think that the buck stops there and your company is there, right, at this one property. So we eliminate that in 3 ways. One way is we do a Zoom meeting every day, which is a 15 to 20-minute meeting with every single employee of the company logs in.
Huddle, yeah.
It's per property. So we have 9 properties, so there'll be 9 Zoom windows. And on each Zoom window, we have the staff gather around, and Tessa will conduct her 15-minute or 20-minute, kind of gathering with the staff. And what happens that we've been really impressed with is as people are talking about their problems, these islands are eliminated and people realize that they're part of something greater. And that helps to communicate the problems. They'll hear a property manager talking about an issue, and this property manager over here will say, man, I'm having the same issue. Do you mind if I call you on your cell phone? I want to talk to you about it. And we love that. You know, like we encourage that amongst everybody to communicate with each other.
Your properties are in what, 4 states?
We're currently in 3 states. We're right now in Texas, Oklahoma, and South Dakota. We're soon going to be entering Florida in a couple of months here. So we'll be in Florida as well, which is a big market for us. That, you know, I'm from Miami. I'm born and raised in Miami. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but I've got my Cuban colada here that I'm drinking just so I can stay awake during the afternoon times.
Got it.
So
Good. So tell our audience here, why did you choose to self-manage? You mentioned a little bit. Can you go into a little more detail? Why did you choose to self-manage?
And I'll try to not be so wordy this time, but to be more specific, because that's a very good question. Because everybody told me, why are you doing this? You could be out there generating sales and raising capital and making, you know, millions of dollars doing that, or whatever it is doing that. Why are you going through this headache of management? And I think the simple answer is to be able to affect change. If you want to change something, you really have to be doing the hiring and the training. And if you're not doing that and you're hiring a third-party company, and now this third-party company is the one hiring your people, how do you control that, right? Where's your quality control? So for us, it was about quality control and making sure that when we hire someone on one of our properties, and we don't differentiate between a property that I own and a third party property. They all go through the exact same protocol, exact same trainings, exact same, they all get the same love. There's no difference. To equity REM employees, the property is a property. It doesn't matter if it's mine or somebody else's, it gets treated exactly the same. And that was done on purpose. I could have easily had the management company under the investment company arm, but I treat them like two completely separate entities, and they're handled like two separate entities, two completely separate books, because they're two standalone companies. And if at any given time one of our properties wasn't performing or whatever, it is, which hasn't happened, thankfully. But we set it up like that on purpose because we did want it to be 100% transparent for our future clients that this company does not favor me over anyone else. The way we're set up, it's just completely transparent. But the main reason was to affect change. We wanted to be there when we're hiring from the very beginning. We wanted to make sure the systems were in place from the very beginning, and that the reporting and all the lovely things that go into reporting in the multifamily world were set up in a way where we understood it, and therefore it wasn't that much of a headache down the road.
Super. And how did Ascent Multifamily help equity real estate management accomplish that goal?
Ascent has been amazing because you guys have really helped us grow at a faster pace than we would have been able to grow had we tried to do this in-house from the beginning. Beyond the cost savings, which there has been cost savings between hiring bookkeepers and a CFO. I had to make the choice. What do I want to hire first, a CFO or a COO? And as important as the CFO position is, and I don't knock that whatsoever, I had at the time already a relationship with what I think is one of the best, operations people I've ever met in the industry. And as long as I've been doing it for, I've never seen anyone more detailed, anyone who cares more about her employees and about her properties, that's as organized as she is. So, that I felt was the opportunity. The opportunity was to start something with her that we could really grow and take it to the next level. So Ascent filled that void, because we kind of went operations wise, and we knew and you also, you got to have the good operations, because if you're not performing at the property level, how do you grow? So for us, Ascent helped tremendously in being able to replace our, an entire sector of our industry has been replaced by Ascent in helping us keep our books on task. You guys, Tessa speaks with Rizzy probably 10 times a day, every single day for the last 2 years. I speak with Kathy once a month, as does Tessa, and it's just been, it's helped give us that boost of confidence as well because of your experience in the business. Having you as a sounding board, am I making the right decision here? The other day you were gracious enough to get on a call with me for an hour and a half just to review the profitability of the business itself and help make sure that we're staying in line with our break even so that our margins are accurate, because at the end of the day, it is a business. We got to make money, and we got to make sure that we're keeping the bills paid and everything is growing in a way that's organic, number one, and number two, that's profitable. So that was, that having access to that is really invaluable. So Ascent has been a big part of our success in growing, has definitely come from having you guys with us and growing together.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. What suggestions would you give to people looking to get into the multifamily business? I talk to 2 or 3 people fairly regularly, about probably every other week, that want to get in the business one way or another. What advice would you give to folks wanting to get in the business?
Number one, get a mentor. I think anybody if you're not already in the business and you're looking to get into it, find the top 5 best people that you think are in your market and try to get access to one of those 5 people so that you can learn from them, shadow them, whatever you can do to kind of make sure it's for you. If you're not passionate about multifamily management in particular, it will chew you up and spit you out, because the business is not for everyone. It's incredibly time consuming. I don't have a regular schedule. It's very frequent that I work on Sundays at any given time on a Sunday. I was on the phone last night at 10 p.m. with a client. You know, Tessa's on the phone all the time with our staff. Anybody that needs help, she's available. And we do that. We love what we do. We're very passionate about it. So for us, it's doesn't bother me. When I get a phone call at 10 p.m. at night, I don't think to myself, oh man, somebody's calling me again. I think to myself, this must be important. Let me answer and see what they need help with. And that attitude is the difference between success and failure. And it's also infectious in the sense that because Tessa answers her phone at any given time, because I answer my phone at any given time, well, now the people that work for us, when they get a call from one of their residents or they get a call from one of their employees at their property, we hope that they also do the same and they also feel the same way. Like, you know what, Tessa and Michael work on Sundays and work after hours. I want to, you know, do the same. And we try to instill that in our culture. You know, we do summer events and a holiday event in the winter. And during those events, we bring all the staff from all the properties together. We usually rent a hotel room somewhere, you know, all budget friendly. It doesn't have to break the bank. These things can be done on a budget.
How often do you do that?
We do it twice a year. We do a summer event and a winter event. And the purpose of that again is to eliminate the islands and to bring the culture to everyone. So this past winter, we took everyone to Fort Worth and we went to the rodeo at the Coliseum in Fort Worth. Great time, you know, tickets are $10, $12 a person. Afterwards, we all went for a barbecue dinner. And then after that, we all went to a couple of different places to hang out and listen to live music and just, you know, have some team bonding and get to know each other. And then in the winter, we did a scavenger hunt in Rapid City, South Dakota. We actually took everyone to Deadwood, which is a very fun time. If no one's ever been to Deadwood Cities, it's an amazing little town in the Black Hills, about 35 minutes or so from Rapid City. But same thing in the wintertime, you can get a hotel room there for $60, $70 a night. You know, let everybody have fun, have a good time, get to ask each other questions and get to know that there's a company behind your property and you're not alone on your property with your 4 or 5 employees. You know, there is a company with, you know, right now, I think we're up to with these new acquisitions, we should be up to about 50 plus employees. On the corporate side, we've got myself, Tessa.
In basically
Becky.
2 years. You're saying you've grown to 2,000 units and 50 employees in 2 years. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, Baruch
Awesome.
Hashem, thank God.
Way to go. Way to go. What do you think, what is your goal for 5 years from now?
The big goal was always to get to 25,000 was kind of our first big goal was to get to 25,000 units. That's still the goal. I mean, that's still our target. You know, I don't know if we'll be there in 5 years. We are more.
That'd be tough to get there in 5 years. We worked with the company that grew to 27,000, but it took them 18 years.
Yeah, and that's probably more realistic. It is again, a lot of it is we're not in a rush to grow. That's not our priority. A lot of people get lose focus and they focus on the growth. We're out to build a good company. Number one, first and foremost, we want to have a great company, not a good company. We want to have a great company that when people think property management, they want us to manage their properties because they know that their properties are in good hands. We understand that a lot of these properties are retirement money for investors. It's a place that people call home. So safety, security, providing good service, all of these things are at the forefront of what's incredibly important to us as managers. And if we think that the ownership is just treating this like a piggy bank and they just want to take money out of the properties and not put money or invest back into it, that doesn't align with our thesis and it doesn't really work for us. Like we've had some situations where that happens and it's okay. We also understand that life is not linear and it's 3D. So sometimes things happen and it's not what everybody hoped for. But you know, at the forefront of what we do is doing it right and making sure that we stay true to number one, our residents, number two, our employees, and number three, our investors, our shareholders, the people that do invest their money and their time in us to help them grow their businesses. We want to make sure that all those things are in line and we aren't sacrificing quality over growth.
Great. You know, as we're visiting, you know, I get a couple themes seem to be coming out. You seem to be pleasantly ambitious, right? You have a culture that you care about deeply, and you're disciplined to protect the culture, right? So you have a discipline on how you accept clients, how you accept employees, And I think those things are awesome that other people can really.
And I have to give compliments to my partner Tessa, because she's like my complimentary. Like when I go off on the deep end sometimes, which I do, she always helps to kind of rein me in and remind me of these things that are important. Because I'm human like everyone else, and I'm very susceptible to growth. And as an entrepreneur at heart, and as a salesperson at heart, I want to do everything, and I want to grow as fast as we can. And it's a really good counterbalance to some of the things that I want to do, to have her. And I'm very fortunate to have her to kind of rein that in and say, hey, if we do this, we're gonna cost this. It's not possible, right? And then I've learned to stop and listen to her when she's talking about these things, because she says it for a reason. So that counterbalance is also important, because I think that we really need that in our lives. You need that person that reins you in and brings in reality. And that's part of why I think we're so successful. I think if I was doing it on my own, it wouldn't have been as successful as we've been.
Right.
A big chunk of our success and our growth, and the fact that we're doing everything well. She likes to say, I bring in the money. She makes sure that it keeps on counting. Or
Yeah, got it. So what's interesting is we work with, a lot of companies. Many of the best ones have a complementary partnership between two partners. One is the gas, one's the brake, and it appears that that's the same with you. So you talked about a couple books that have influenced you, that you care, that your people read. What book recommendations would you give for our listeners?
So I really like, for beginning, just overall, that comes to mind right away, is The Ideal Team Player. I think is a good start, because the focus on that book is everyone. I think it's essentially finding people that are humble, hungry, and smart. And if you have those three qualities, you can really do a lot with a person. You can really train them, take them to the next level. So that's a really good one that we like. We also the book on the DISC assessment, that really helps people understand the different DISC profiles. There's a book for that. It's a very short read. I'll have to get you the name of that. It's Taking Flight, it's called. Sorry, it just
Taking
came to
Flight, yeah. So I was a former certified Gazelles business coach.
Oh, sweet.
We believed in DISC
Yeah, we
at
know
the start of
Gazelle.
our relationships, just to help people communicate and break down barriers.
It's so good, and especially on the property level, you don't see this stuff too often in property management. So like two things that we do differently, that we didn't notice before, that we wanted it to be part of our company, was the DISC assessment. We thought that was huge, and doing it at the property level. And it doesn't matter if you're maintenance person, maintenance supervisor, assistant, leasing agent, doesn't matter. It's applicable to you, and it's applicable to your coworkers, because it helps you communicate
So
better.
all 50 of your employees have taken that test.
Every single one of them. They take it, they read it, and then they talk about it with their property manager, and it's discussed, and we discuss it. Me coming in as an owner of the company, I like to bring it up to them, like, oh, I realize you're a high I, or you're a high D, or whatever, because they hear it and it reinforces it, that it's important. It doesn't matter who you are. I read your profile and I know about it, right? It helps to reinforce.
And what would be a third book that you'd recommend?
A third book, I'm actually reading this one right now, and I really like it. It's called Objections. There you go. Oh, no.
By Michael Blunt.
Yeah, really good book. Sales Gravy is kind of his company, but Objections, this has been really good, because I need to cold call, right? I've got to do it. I've got to call people. It's part of our business. There's no such thing as you're too successful to cold call. I think that once you say that word, you might as well go out to pasture and retire. But it's getting harder and harder as I get older, to pick up the phone, to hear objections, to call somebody you don't know and have them tell you, I'm not interested, like, I already have this. So it wears on you. And I found myself slowing down a bit, I guess, as I get long in the tooth. So I've been reading this book because it's given me a lot of motivation for making these calls again. He does a really good job into diving into the psychology of rejection. And I feel like once you separate the psychology of rejection from your job, and you get back to the fundamentals of cold calling and sales, it really helps eliminate the roadblocks that we have. So that led me in turn to creating what we've done now internally, which is a leasing agent training program where, me being the salesman that I am, I go to these properties, I have a 2-hour class with the leasing agent or anybody that's going to be touching a prospect, and explain to them the importance of what we do, explain to them the importance of overcoming objections, and then I give everyone their harpoon which is their script, so that they have a script of what they need to say when they call a new lead. And this way you eliminate the roadblock of what am I going to say on the phone if I get this guy on the phone today. I had a bad call yesterday, or I got into a fight with somebody today, and my mind's not thinking. Well, you don't need to think. Here's your script. Just dial the numbers, say the script, let it go from there. And that I find has been, for me, helpful, because again, if I've got my script, I know what I'm going to say to the guy on the phone. It eliminates the roadblock right away.
Super. So awesome.
Those are my current three readings that I've got on the table.
Thank you very much. So to our listeners, if you're watching this and you'd like one of those books, if you go to our website, fill out the form, say, hey, I'd like this one book, we'll send it to you for free. Michael, thank you very much for your time. I think this has been very valuable. It's obvious to see why your company is successful. We wish you great luck, great fortune as you grow your company. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.
Thank you, Mike. Always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you to Ascent Multifamily Accounting for making this podcast possible. Ascent has a team of multifamily accounting experts that provide outsourced bookkeeping for multifamily management companies. To learn more about Ascent Multifamily Accounting, go to multifamilyaccounting.com. We hope you have enjoyed listening to the Multifamily Excellence podcast. If you want to hear more from multifamily experts like this, you can find our podcast on Apple Podcasts and YouTube. We appreciate your support and can't wait to have you join us again for our next episode. Until then, take care.